Welcome back to the ruched YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful yoke ruffled butterfly. This has this beautiful butterfly effect. As you can see, the ruffle is continuous up to the sleeve area, and it has a yoke on the chest area, as you have seen. It also has a button at the back. It's a really beautiful and comfortable dress, and it's very simple to make. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so this dress is really beautiful and comfortable. It has a yoke on the chest line area, as we can see. So I'm going to be starting with my yoke. I'm cutting directly on my fabric. You can cut on your paper as well. So this fabric I'm working with is a thick chiffon fabric. Okay, you can see it's a chiffon fabric, but it has a little bit of strength. That's why I can work with it directly. If you are working with a softer chiffon, it's going to be shifting a lot, so you may need to draft on your paper before transferring to your fabric. So I'll just draft my basic bodice. I have my front and back folded together, and you can see that there is no zipper allowance here because it's not going to have a zipper. If your head is big enough, if your neckline is big enough for your head to pass through, you may not even add button, but I'm going to be adding button tomorrow because my neckline is not going to be so big. So my shoulder is 16 divided by 2. I'll mark 8 inches. For my neckline, I'm working with a neck width of 3.5 inches. By the time I turn it, it's going to be 4, and then I'm coming down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. My armhole is 9 inches, so I'm going to mark my armhole there. So the yoke is going to stop on the armhole area because the flanks, we want, like the gathers that we have there, the flanks, we want it to look like it's continuous from the bodice to the armhole. So for it to be able to link, that's why the yoke is stopping on the armhole area. So I'm stopping my measurement here. I'm just going to add like 1 inch allowance so that I will be able to gather my dress, okay, the lower part, so that I'll be able to gather the lower part on it. That's why I have this allowance, because if you stop it on your armhole, there'll be nothing to sew with. So this is the total length that I'm working with for my yoke. Okay, so for the neckline, the neck depth for the back is going to be 1.5 inches, and then for the front is going to be around 4 inches. I'll connect this now, and then I'm going to go ahead and take my bust measurement so that I can draw my armhole curve. Okay, so here again I'm going to connect my shoulder slope. The bust is 44 divided by 4 is 11, but like I said, it's a comfortable dress, it's free, you don't want it too tight, so I had 1/2 inch for his, so I'm left with 11.5, and then I'm adding 1 inch for my seam allowance. I'm taking the same measurements on the hem as well, and then using the curved side of my ruler, I'm going to draw my armhole curve. Okay, so we're just taking like a mini bodice. Okay. So now I'm cutting this out. I'll cut the hem first, and then I'm going to cut my armhole as well as. Okay, so now you can see I have cut out my bodice. I can see I have a 1 inch allowance there. So now for the front, I don't want the front part, this center front part, to be on my chest line, or both the front and back. So I can go up by around 1.5 inches. Okay, so with that, the yoke is going to be resting around 8.5 or 8 inches thereabouts on the center front area, and then I'm just going to find a way to link that with what I have there. So this is actually optional. If you don't mind it being straight, you can just keep this part. So you can see what I have there. You can see the little cup that I have. So now what I'm going to do now is to remove the front from the back. For the back, remember I said I'm going to be putting a button, so I'll just open like 4 inches, it's for that. This is the back, and then for my front I'm going to fold again so that I can cut my front neckline depth. So now that we are done with the yoke, the next thing is to cut the gathers for the lower part. So I'm going to be adding the gathers to the hem of this yoke, this part. So you just need to measure what you have there. Okay, this should be around 24 thereabouts. Okay, so I have around 24 inches excluding seam allowance, 22, 23, 24 inches excluding seam allowance. So depending on how full you want this to be, and this is just for front, you know, we have another one which is the back. So for the front, depending on how full you want your ruffles to be, you can multiply by 2.5 or 3 inches. So if I'm multiplying 22 inches by 3 inches, I'll have about 66 inches. So now I'll take my fabric and cut a fabric of 66 inches length, and the width and the length is going to be whatever it is that you want your dress to be, the full length. Remember, we already used 9 inches, which is our yoke measurement for the half length. So now my full length is 42 inches, so I just need to deduct these 9 inches from the 42 inches, and I'll be left with around 33 inches, and this is including seam allowance. So I'll go ahead now and cut a fabric of 66 inches in width to gather here, and then the length is going to be 33 inches, which is going to make up what I need from the full length of my gathers. So I have cut this out now, and I cut two of these, one for front and one for back. My fabric has like a border design on the hem, so that's why I decided to use that part for this. So now what you need to do is to go ahead and gather this to your half length measurements, okay? Because remember, we're going to be sewing this to our hem. So all of this that you have here, you're going to gather everything to fit into this. And for the half length as well, remember we need to clean up the neckline area. So I've gone ahead to cut facing for it. You can also use bias if you want, but I prefer to use facing. So here on the neckline, in between my facing and bias, I'm going to add a loop where I can place my button. So I'll go ahead and turn the necklines now, and after turning the neckline, I'm going to join the shoulder together and then fix these gathers on the lower part. So I have turned the neckline, as you can see, and then I joined this on the shoulder. You can see the loop that I created for the back button as well. So on my hem of the yoke, you can see I have gathered this to it, and the 1 inch allowance that we left is very important, because like I said, you need half an inch to join your yoke, and the left over the half an inch that is left from the 1 yard is what we're going to use to join the sleeve as well. So it's important to do this. So now the next thing we're going to be working on is our sleeve. The sleeve is a basic sleeve, so I've gone ahead to cut my basic sleeve. It's a long sleeve, but it can be any length you want. So I think I have about 20 inches here. So this is my basic sleeve. I have 2 for each side. So remember that this gathers is continuous to the sleeve. Okay, so there are 2 ways you can actually do this. You can sew your sleeve to the armhole first before joining your gather. So once you're joining your gather now, you're going to include the underarm measurements into the measurement that you're cutting, and you cut everything together, so that after joining your sleeve like this, that's going to consume more fabric. After joining your sleeve like this, so you just continue joining the gathers to the underarm area as well. That's if you want it to be joined together, and then you finish it by sewing it outwards, just like you do for your normal butterfly boo, or you cut it separately, like we are going to be doing now. So because we are cutting this separately now, remember the frills is going to be added on the underarm area, which is here. So you can take the measurement there as well and use that to cut out your fabric. So I have 19.5 inches here. So if I multiply that by 2 or 3, depending on how full you want it to be, you will use that to cut your flounce. And then the length of this flounce, because it's going to be the same length with our bodies, with our full gown, although we are still going to shape it out. So the same length that we used for the lower part of the dress is the length that I'm going to use for the gathers that we are going to be working on for the sleeve as well. So I'll go ahead and cut out a fabric of, I think I'm going to multiply this by 2 because I don't have so much fabric anymore. So I'll cut a fabric of 40 inches in length and then in width, and then 33 inches in length to match up with the length that we have on our dress. Okay, so like I said, I don't have so much fabric, so I think I have about 30 something in width here. So I'll just manage and gather everything. So you can see I have about 36. So that's what I'm going to use. I will gather it to one side of the sleeve. So I'm just going to open it now and then gather it to one side of the sleeve. I'll do the same thing for the other side, and then I'm going to show us how to shape it and join it to our bodies. Okay, so I have gone ahead to gather it. You can see this is my sleeve. So for fabrics like this that has true right and wrong side, if you have enough, you can cut two so that you have each on both sides of the sleeve, so that if this side is facing the right, if you have another one here, it's going to be facing the back of the dress as well. But for me, my fabric is not enough, so I'm going to just use this. And then because now this is the right side of the fabric and it's going to show, it's clearly different from the wrong side of the fabric. When you are sewing to your sleeve, make sure that the part that you are sewing to is the front part. I mean the part that is facing the right side of the fabric is facing the front of the dress, just like this. Okay, you don't want it at the back, so that this wrong side is not going to be shown at the back. But if you have enough fabric, you sew one on this side and then you sew the other one in such a way that the right side is going to be facing this side as well, so that you have the same thing on both sides. So this is what the sleeve looks like. Don't be confused. You can see this is our actual basic sleeve. I just gathered this to the basic sleeve. So now to shape it, I'm going to lay the two sleeves together so that I can shape them. You can see how I have opened it up on the side that I have joined these two. So I'm going to bring in the other sleeve as well, and we are shaping from the okay. So like I was saying, you can see this is the hem of my sleeve. That's where we're going to start shaping. It's going to be tiny on the hem, and then it broadens as it joins the other part of the dress. So you are going to lay them on each other, making sure that they are equal. Okay, wrong side facing wrong side like this, or if you choose to chalk it on the right, on the wrong side as well, you just make sure that this, if the right side is facing each other, make sure it's right side facing right side or wrong side facing wrong side. I'm sure you know what I mean, so that you're not going to make mistake and shape where you're not supposed to shape. So after laying it like this, this is the hem of the sleeve. If you want it to be a little longer, you can just measure like 1 inch or 2 inches before you start shaping it. But I'm going to shape mine to the hem like this. So I will start shaping from the hem just like this, and then I will start cuffing my hand from here all the way to the other edge, okay, which is here, which is this part. This part is what we are going to be joining to the dress. Okay, that's why it's the same length that with the actual length of our dress. So sorry, my camera is not capturing everything, but I'll still show us. So you can see how I'm covering my hand. I'm just covering it to meet the M, which is here, just like this. That's what I'm doing. So by the time I cut it out now, I'm sure we'll see what I'm doing better. So now I have curved it like this, and then I'll just grab my scissors and then shape it out. Okay, I'm shaping out what I have cut. So now you see that the length that we have on the hem of the sleeve now is shorter. You can see. Okay, so this is the hem of the sleeve. What we have there now is shorter, as you can see, and then it just narrows like this. And then what we have on the head of the sleeve, which is the part that we're going to sew to our bodies, is still the same 33 inches length. Okay, so you can see this is the head of the sleeve, and you can see that the length still remains the same because we are sewing this to our bodies. I hope you understand that. So now what I'm going to do now is to grab my main dress and then I'll go ahead and sew my armhole. And if you notice, when I was sewing these ruffles, I made sure to leave half an inch to sew my sleeve to the armhole. So I'll go ahead and sew the sleeve to the armhole on both sides, and then I'll bring it back to show us how to turn it. So I have gone to sew my sleeve, okay, to the body. So you can see my armhole line, and then you can see that the ruffle is continuous. That's why I said if you decide to just have it as one continuous ruffle, you just sew your half length to the sleeve, and then you measure everything all at once, including your underarm area, and divide that. So what that means is that you have to close it outwards like this, just like you do for your normal butterfly bodies. But for this, you can see that we join the ruffle separately to the bodies. But be careful, you can see what I was talking about. This is the front side of my fabric, so you can see that this ruffle is also facing the front side on the sleeve, because the is facing the right side of the bodies, because this fabric has a true wrong and right side. So that's what I want us to note. And you can see the shaping we did. This is the hem of the sleeve. You can see now that on the hem of the sleeve, is not that long. It's not as long as what we have here. And then you can see that the part that is close to our bodies, remember this is the main bodies and this is the sleeve, that part remains the length. Especially if you are working with fabrics like this that has like patterns, you have to be very careful and make sure that everything is right, so that it can just align like this. So now that we have done this, the next thing now is to close up this dress. So to sew it, you can see this is the length, this is our actual bodies, and this is the flange that we have on the sleeve. So you are going to, the long part that is equal to our dress length, you are going to suspend it in between the front and back. So you can see how I'm placing it now. You can pin it down first, okay. So after pinning it, this is the flange of the gathers of the sleeve, the gathers of the front, you can see them. Now I'm going to use the back to cover it up, okay. So now I'll just bring my back now and then use it to cover it up in such a way that I'll have my back, the gather of the sleeve, and the front. So the gather of the sleeve is just going to be in between the front and back. I hope you understand that. So now I'm going to match everything up, and then I will sleeve and I will sew it. And then for the sleeve underarm, you just lay them on each other just like you close your normal sleeve, and then you tuck in the ruffles, the gathers in between, so that you don't sew it together with it. So I'll take it to the sewing machine now and sew from my sleeve all the way to the side of my dress. So I have gone ahead to join this side. I started joining it from the sleeve area all the way to the armhole, and remember that my sleeve ruffle is suspended in between the front and back. So you joined it. So because you can see now it's the same thing, you can see the pattern aligns very well. This is the front, this is the sleeve, and this is the back. So you should make sure that the length of the ruffle you are working with for the sleeve is also the length of the half part of the lower part of your dress, because you want them to align. You can see the hem as well, they are all equal length. So I have sewn the front and back, the two sides, and now I'm going to flip to the right side to see what we have. So we are done with this dress. What you just need to do now is to hem the dress, okay. So now this is what we have. This is the sleeve. You can see the sleeve, and you can see the cut that we did here. So you go ahead and weave all of this, or you hem it, and then you hem it together with the main bodies. The main bodies has to be hemmed as well. And then I'm going to fix a button to the back and iron this properly. So I'll do all of this now and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so you can see me wearing this dress. You can see that our gathered is continuous to give the butterfly effects that we have there. And you can place close attention to the patterns that we have there. You can see that it matches very well. That's why I said it is very important for you to note that when you are cutting the flange for your sleeve as well. So you see how beautiful this is looking and how comfortable it is to wear. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section
like, comment, subscribe to our channel, follow us on all our social media platforms at ruched, and I will see you in the next one.